just last week, bought a house. They're gonna use it 50% of the time, wanna rent it.
They
They
can
can't
still
do
rent
anything.
it for 50 days a year.
So now you're limiting somebody's ability to build their business and grow their business. Is that right? Do you get to control their business?
This is what the town was asked to do.
So regarding the same issue, you said so what prompted the amendment in the first place, just out of curiosity? Because we did one last year and then you amended it, so what prompted the change?
We got more information. The first year was really to get the information, how many STRs we have in town and everything.
Okay.
And see,
What percentage of the homes in Londonderry are short-term rentals?
we have about, what was it? I wish Andy was here for that question, but it was 90 something.
And how many, Tina's right there, so how many homes are on the tax list?
1,500.
What percentage is 90 something out of 1,500, under 10%, correct? So you're saying that no, the 9% of renters, assuming everybody on the board is a local, correct?
Yeah, you have to be on the board.
Yes. So I'm going to pose a question to all of you and I'd like you to answer individually if that's okay. Are you guys on the board to see Londonderry get better, or to keep Londonderry stagnant, or to let it go downhill?
I'm on the board to help this town become a better place. And part of this ordinance is the real party houses, which everybody has a problem with, are the ones that are investment properties where the owner has never set foot here.
So-
Maybe once.
Again, to my question, you're saying that this ordinance, short-term and long-term, will be better for Londonderry.
Yep.
Okay, I guess we will discuss that at a different meeting since we don't want to hold up everybody's time, but tell me how it makes Londonderry better. This coming winter season, give me just one example. So you're saying that you're doing the amendment because of the troublemaking homes, and you don't want investors coming here, right? So you want to limit that. But does not also limit locals like yourselves who own short-term rentals and their profitability and their ability to rent their business, because it is a business. It's registered to the state, correct? So how is that any different than you saying to Max that, okay, guess what, you know what? Your open mic night was too low, so you can't do this or you can't do that. So basically you're telling us locals, because I am a local, that because of Dan right here, oh, you can't do that. So basically you're telling me that you don't care about the locals that operate short-term rentals.
If it's a hosted property, you have no problem. There is no restriction on the hosted property.
There is, because it limits one's ability to also transfer that property,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not
only
gonna get in-
grandfathered if you keep it in the name it's registered down.
So also it affects the future value of some of your homes if you want to rent. If you say you put it on the market and you want to, if you're a short-term rental house, and you want to rent it and sell it, the future owner, that price is built into what is being sold then. So the house is safe. You made $20,000 on a short-term rental program, and you're selling your house for $450,000. That $20,000 was put into figuring out the sale price of the house. So now that person comes in, and now the value of your house is less because you can't rent it and have income coming in for almost 18 months by the time you really see some money coming back. So now the value instead of 450 is now 425, so you're taking money off the table from somebody's investment by limiting their ability and the marketability of their product in the marketplace. You're limiting it to a certain person.
Well, we could have gone above and beyond this and put a cap on the number of short-term rentals in the town. We did not.
That's a completely different thing, which would have probably worked out better. Again,
No, because the cap would have been about 100. It would have been about 10 more STRs you could put in this town, and that would be it, period.
Again, that didn't happen, so we're not discussing that. And again, you said it was better, and Dan asked if somebody did like an economic
Economic study
or anything like that.
Trying to shut down these short-term
So-
rentals affects a lot of people.
You're not shutting down any short-term rentals.
I'm not going to.
This ordinance does not shut down a
No,
short-term
but you're
rental.
slowing down the growth.
I'm not going to blurt
That's
out
what we were asked to do.
a bunch of numbers here, but for example, I own a short-term rental, right? You kept that at 50 nights. However, Tina is my cleaner. She's a local, right?
Are you registered right now?
I am.
Then you're not capped to 50 nights.
No. But again, I can't buy another one, can I?
Nope.
Exactly.
Not unless you want to hold on to it for a year.
Exactly. So you're not looking at the impact that it's going to have on Tina that now loses out on her cleaning because, oh, the town decided to do that. Or my mowing guy who no longer mows, or anybody at all that this affects. Dan's a realtor, right? Nobody's going to come here to purchase. So who is he selling houses to, right?
People who want to live in town.
She's a more...
We live in a...
Wait.
I'd love to sort of just add to what Tom is saying. The committee that worked on the ordinance took information, and I was part of that, took information from many communities, both local to Vermont, but also nationally in like towns that had the ski resort situation.
Yeah.
And so it was really trying to balance, yes, growth, but also a huge feature of this is safety. And we have a responsibility to make sure that these homes are safe residences for guests in our community. And so there were an awful lot of pieces of the process or pieces of the eventual resolution that were designed around safety and controlling growth. It's not meant to eliminate, it's meant to sort of attenuate or sort of make this happen a little bit slower because it felt like short-term rentals were taking off at an accelerated speed and we were losing control over what we thought the community best wanted. And I will tell you, just one more sec, I will tell you that this committee met every week or every 2 weeks and took lots of input from folks. There was a time to be part of that conversation. I mean, you can certainly offer us suggestions going forward, but what we have is what we think is the best that we can do at this point.
Yeah, just to clarify what Martha was saying, we met every 2 weeks. We have agendas, we have minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was very public.
It's a public process.
Excuse me?
What committee is it?
It was a short-term rental...
Working group.
Working group.
Okay,
I mean, it existed.
I'd like you to show me that anywhere on the Londonderry website, the short-term committee group.
It's on there.
It's on there.
Yeah, it's on there, and Andy Dahlstrom was
Yeah, I spoke
our
to him.
staff representative to that process. So it wasn't something that was done in the dark of the night or something like that. It really was honestly done.
Right here.
We are not.
You want to see it? It's on the website.
Yeah.
We're not
Agendas.
disputing the
Right,
ordinance.
right.
We're disputing the amendment. We're fine with the ordinance. Like the safety aspect of it,
Right.
the sleeping arrangements, we're perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
What we're disputing is the amendment. That's all we're disputing. And you said you want the locals to afford the houses, right?
Well, the best I can. I mean, the housing stock is not easy for locals to afford, but yes.
Okay.
We want them to be available to
What
locals
percentage
if
of
they
our
can do
homes
it.
are short-term rentals again? We just went over this.
There's about 90 with 20 questions.
Yeah. But also, we have about 500 homesteads, so only 500 households
It's still
actually
homes
here.
because you can rent your homestead. You just said that. As long as it's hosted,
You,
you can
well,
rent it.
you can't file your homestead if you rent it. If you rent the house, you have to live there to file a homestead.
Which would be classified as hosted, correct? You live there, you rent out your apartment?
Yes.
Yes.
As we hosted.
So that
I mean-
does classify. So again, I don't want to, the housing numbers were ridiculously higher pre-COVID, right? No local, and I said this to you in the last meeting, First it was, we're looking for long-term rentals because locals have nowhere to rent.
This is
Right?
correct.
And no, you're saying it's because locals need places to buy.
To buy
So you
in,
shift it from
Rent.
long-term. And I said this to you, my short-term rental, I'll rent it to any local. If I can afford to stay there, I don't need to make a dime, not $1, to pay my mortgage and pay their utilities.
If you want to rent long-term, guess what? You'll have people lining up outside your door. My brother has apartments, as soon as one's empty, before he even advertises it, he has 10 to 20 people looking for an apartment.
Yes, you know why?
Because there's no long-term housing in town.
No, they are affordable. You're missing that part. Nobody's going to come here and say, okay, guess what? I'm going to have a mortgage of $3,000, right? And again, maybe I'm just oblivious to the fact. Not a lot of locals can afford a rent for $3,000 on top of their utilities.
I agree with that.
You agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I have a mortgage, right, of $400,000, and my mortgage payment is $3,500, which does not include my utilities. You just said if I put my house up for long-term rent, I'll have 20 people lining up. Where are they going to come from if they can't afford it?
It's all about what you set for prices. My brother's
Sure.
apartments are somewhat affordable and he's rented nonstop.
Again, affordable. Your brother owns his apartments.
Yes, he does.
Exactly. Most people who are short-term renting don't own their homes. They have a payment on them.
I've
So
done the
you're telling me
math.
I put myself in debt.
So I've done the math. If you rented a short-term rental for 50 days a year at $500, that's $25,000. That's what pay your insurance, your mortgage.
Do you know how much somebody makes on an Airbnb?
It all varies, yeah.
About 50%. Yeah.
So that right there, again, it's my.
And $500 is low for a
What's-
short-term.
What's the profit margin percent for a business in Vermont, a registered business in Vermont?
I can't tell you that off the top of my head.
There's none, because there's no law stating how much a person can make out their business. You can't go tell the idea that they are capped out at 50%, or they can only make $100,000. Right then and there, you just told me that, okay, guess what? At 50 nights, you made enough money. You don't need to make any more money.
Well, 50 nights, if you got $1,000 a night, that's $50,000.
So that's what I'm saying, but you're telling me that, okay, guess what? With my business in the town of Londonderry, right, I am capped out at $50,000.
Your business right now is grandfathered under this ordinance, so it's only if you buy a new property that affects you. As long as you're registered right now, you're fine. You're a grandfather.
Yeah, but if I had a short-term rental that rented 100 nights, I made $200 on it, that's $20,000. I go to sell it, that's part of the value of the house, $20,000. Now it's only 10.
Well, guess
So
what?
the value of my house just went down.
Well, what we have been told as a town is we don't want our houses being sold strictly for short-term rentals.
They're not all quality.
That's what people have told us. People have come to us.
It's very short-sighted.
Well, you guys very well could have come to all the meetings of this committee.
I learned about the amendment to the paper through done.
The meetings are all published on the website, at the post offices. They're all public meetings. If you guys had concerns, that was the time to go show up and talk to it.
So we are going to file an appeal and actually have to request a special hearing against this amendment, so.
All right?
We can continue that discussion at that time, I guess it's best, because we don't want to take up everybody's time.
Well, then we will continue that discussion at that time.
Yeah, I
Thank
think it's
you.
probably better, and let everybody else continue with the regular business, not hold up tonight for one special thing, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening, appreciate it.
Yep. Anyone else? See no hands, we'll move on. Item 7, town officials business, 7A, town accessory listers. A1 is lister appointment. So Marge Fish would you guys like to talk to it? Go for it.
I could go to
after town meeting, said she was very interested. We met, we talked. She is, she has a wonderful background, very good with people. I think she will fill the role admirably, and I think that also she would treat the people of the town of Londonderry with dignity and respect, which is what the Lister's office has always tried to do.
I say she always does. Anyone care to make the motion?
I'm happy to move it. I move to appoint Marge Bish to fill the office of Lister pursuant to 24 VSA subsection 963 and authorize the select board chair to sign the notice of vacancy on behalf of the board. This appointee will serve until a town election is had.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Congratulations, Marge. Congratulations, Blisters. Moving on to 7B, Parks Director. B1 is Memorial Park Pavilion roof bid.
We just met and have chosen Buddy Systems bid. And not sure what else we need to say about that.
That bid was for
That bid was for.
10,000 something.
There was a significant difference in prices. not a
Yes, very
difference
significant. 35.
in Work to be done. Made the decision easy for us.
10,711.
Do we know their work? Are people okay with their
Yes.
professional? Okay.
Is that an answer to that question?
Yes.
That's my answer, yeah.
Chad also has worked with Buddy before and experienced, or Buddy has worked on Chad's property before.
And the other bid was Jankovic and Son for $30,000, $681. So,
Pam Spalding has a question.
yeah.
I have a question. Why stay with shingles versus a standing seam?
That would be the park board, I believe.
I would imagine price would be we never really even talked about metal because we were just replacing what was there.
Okay.
You can, yep. It's built to withstand the snow load. We actually have posts that come down in the wintertime to give extra support to it all. And nor is there any space for snow to go since it's built into the hill.
Any further discussion? Anyone care to make a motion?
Sure. I move to one, accept the bid from Buddy Systems Roofing to provide services relating to the Memorial Park Pavilion roof repair, estimated to cost $10,711. And two, authorize the town administrator to execute any documents necessary for the hiring of the contractor to conduct the necessary work.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 8, Transfer Station Solid Waste Management. 8A is updates. We don't have any updates at this time.
No, other than, most of the time the vending machine works, but if it doesn't, should keep trying because it's usually the credit card processor that's down, not us.
Yeah.
So,
And we can't control that.
no, you cannot.
8B is discuss recycling hours. So I've talked to Nick and Candy, and they're good to go whenever we tell them it's time to start. They both said there's no conflicts.
I think it's time to start.
So what are we
So
thinking?
everything- Well, certainly the vending machine at the grocery store says it's not open Sunday. Will you go through the process of changing that?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think we can just put something over that,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the closest one is the 10th, or no, the 11th, sorry. That is Mother's Day. I don't know if that affects any of us here, but just throwing that out there.
Good day for recycling.
So we can start the 11th, 18th, 25th?
I would just start the 11th.
Is there any minimum notification that would be helpful, or not requirements necessarily, but
I don't think there's
Probably
any
should get it
requirements,
out.
but to get the word out, it
I
might.
mean, it'll travel fast if you.
Yeah. Travel really fast.
Maybe if he has a late first day, it wouldn't be the end of the world anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I can put
What
up
hours are they gonna, 1 to 4?
12 to 4.
12 to 4, okay.
That's what we were doing, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it ends up being a
And-
5-hour day for him from.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah, they work 5
They
hours.
come in an hour early or an hour late, or a half hour or whatever, just to clean up and get ready.
Run the machine.
Yep.
Is it
So,
only one worker there on a Sunday, or?
no, it's Candy
Candy,
on the recycling side,
Okay.
and Nick would be on the garbage disposal side.
Did they have any input on when they were ready?
They both said they're ready
Nick
to
said
go.
he's ready to go
Candy,
immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's go.
what about, to take it or leave it? Do you wanna leave that open on Sundays, or?
That would probably be up to Candy if she could, she probably won't be able to do both.
Yeah, I'd have to ask Andy about that one, I guess. I mean, that's really up to her, I guess, if she feels like she can do it, and, yeah.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be the end of the world to
Not having.
yeah.
close that for,
Yeah. Well, if anyone cares to make a motion there, sure some people will be happy.
Didn't have a suggested motion on that one, so what?
We can wing it.
Yeah.
I can wing a motion if you'd like.
okay. If we're just saying,
I move to reopen the transfer station from 12 to 4 on Sundays,
second,
starting May 11th.
second.
All those in favor? Aye.
I have a question. Do you know when Esther is doing the household hazardous waste pickup?
It's the first Saturday in June, I think.
First Saturday in June?
And then she,
Double check
Solid,
that with her. Yeah.
Recycle,
electronic?
electronics is the 17th of May,
But the household is the first Saturday in June?
yes.
I would say before you publish that, double check
That's
it.
fine, I was asking.
It's on our website.
Oh, yeah.
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 There's a poster.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item 9, roads and bridges, 9A's updates.
We got fuel for April. The equipment was 870 gallons, and the transfer station was 140 gallons for the month of April. Other than that, our excavator broke up on 100. We are sitting on the side of the road, so hopefully they're coming to fix it tomorrow. Other than that, we're picking up brush and plugging away, grading when we can. A little wet now, so. Yeah. I didn't see much for flooding going on yet. Everybody's all over to be holding up.
Good.
That's all I get.
All right. Moving on to 9B, then, discuss paving schedule.
So,
Did Everett's thing make it in here?
Oh, no, it did not.
No. Okay.
Everett is coming tomorrow to measure and do some stuff. He said he's gonna text and let me know what's going on, but I haven't heard nothing yet, but his plan was to do something. I hadn't gone up to, I was gonna do culverts today, and it rained so much, paint wasn't gonna stick real well, so.
I think that a summary of our meeting about a direction to go to kind of get the most bang for our buck. This year, we actually have a larger budget because of money held over. Our primary project would be Winhaw Hollow Road. And there's a couple reasons for going that route. We were actually going to try to transfer a Class 2 grant that we got for Langgrove Road to help on another Class 2 road, and we were actually unable to switch it. So in addition to the proposals for Winhall Hollow Road, we're gonna ask for a proposal for work to be done that fits the grant of $200,000 for Langrove Road. So that being a separate project that we can't transfer to anything else, we end up just using that money, and Langrove Road is gonna be good for hopefully,
A long time.
yeah, 10 to 15 years. The goal is to try to get some of these larger stretches done for longer periods of time, so that when our budget catches up a little bit, we're now budgeting more money each year to do some of these larger projects that are more expensive every year too. So hopefully if we can get some of the bigger ones knocked out, then we'll be able to focus on getting caught up, so.
Yeah, hopefully we can go from doing little sections to a whole road.
I think that's the biggest goal, because by the time you spend, you know, if you only do a third of a road, then it takes 3 budget years to finish one road. So increasing the budget so you can finish a complete road will never catch up if we do end up doing sections. It just, if you look at the cycle of repaving each road, if you can't make the work last more than or up to 15 years, you never catch up. So I think,
You wanna go over some prices?
do we want to do the dollar amounts before the bids go out?
Well, that's
or-
probably true, yeah. But at least for, the money we have available for paving, we have $750,000 available for paving because we didn't do any paving during the flood, so we skipped a year. And then we,
We did, but it got paid for.
yeah, we did, but yeah.
Right, right.
And then we have the $200,000 paving Class 2 grant for Langrove Road. So altogether, we had $950,000 for paving, which is all new to us.
Yeah, and I think it's a kind of a timely boost for being behind schedule. In addition to those 2 projects, the Langrove Road project with the grant money and the Winhall Hollow Road project with the budget, we also have Old School Street that it's not going to go out to bid in the same way because Hunter Excavation is going to be there doing the parking area for the new town office renovations. So as part of that, to eliminate mobilization costs, and I think it makes sense. We all discussed it and thought it made sense to have Hunter do the hill or the road in its
The paved
entirety.
part.
And we are replacing the back culverts that are underneath before we spend all this money as well.
So
So
when,
we have the-
Old School Street has, I think we said minimum of 2 culverts that would be replaced.
That need to go.
As part of the request for proposal for Winhall Hollow Road, we're looking at a minimum of 10 culverts, as many as 20, but probably somewhere in between there based on the longevity of the paving project would be about 15 years. So we want to look at culverts in the same way. We don't necessarily want to tear up the road in the next 5 to 10 years. But if that work lasts 15 years and we can do some culverts, 10 to 15 years from now, then we may hold off on some of those and just do the ones that are not going to last through the next 5 years, let's just say. So.
Another thing I was thinking is by doing so much this year, since we do have the budget, it's gonna show people what we can do once we get to that level that we're looking at for our paving budget. And it'll give them a good idea of how much better it will be for the paving process.
One of the things that will be kind of held over from this particular project, depending on how the bids come in, in order to extend the life of the new work on Winhall Hollow Road, our engineer Everett Hammond has recommended that we use a chip seal process that it's relatively inexpensive compared to repaving, and when you apply it to new pavement, it actually extends the life significantly. So the value, it adds about 5 years of life by the sounds. So the value for the cost of it, it really is there. And anytime that you can extend the life, I mean, 5 years, 5 years of budget money that's a big number all of a sudden, you know. So if you can get 5 extra years out of a road, then you could be saving literally hundreds of thousands of dollars not having to do it sooner than scheduled. So depending on how the bids come in, that process may have to happen out of next year's budget. We'll just see what we can afford to do based on.
And doing the chip seal will help us get caught up on our roads by saving us 5 years on each road.
Yeah, I think it's the only thing that's going to align us with, you know, keeping up, essentially. I think the way, without starting to gain on it, we're just going to be patching. And
when I first started, somebody said, I think your dad told me, we need to pave 2 miles every year just to keep on schedule.
right,
Which
by
they
the
never
time.
did, but we've never kept up with that.
Right. And the thing is too, it's really tempting to want to go and just top coat some of these roads.
Yeah.
But literally in less than 5 years, they look the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're spending your entire budget and you're within 5 years, and think about how many paving projects you can do in 5 years. We have more mileage than that.
Yeah,
So if you
yeah.
do the math, like what you're saying,
Yeah.
I'm not going to check the math, but just say
No, I
2
don't
miles
know
a
if that
year.
was accurate. It might have been more than 2 miles, but it wasn't
Right.
as expensive
It's-
than to pave, so.
It's calculatable though.
Yes,
You could
yeah.
definitely say, if we're not doing this
Yeah,
and they're not lasting 15 years,
yeah.
it doesn't add up. So I
Probably
think,
were like 3.
We only did a mile in years past.
Yeah.
And how many total miles do we have? 18?
So-
I think they were up to 2 miles, it's
20?
probably more like 3 now.
yeah, so we have, what, 57 miles of road and
26, we give it.
Yeah,
26
miles.
yeah, 20
26
something
are
are
paved.
dirt and 26 of hay.
Maybe you have 9 or 11 that's class 2, I don't remember exactly, but your Winhall Hollow, Thompsonburg, Middletown, 121, are all class 2 roads, so we get state funding, help with them more.
Yeah, and I mean, if you divide 26 by, just say, over 8 miles would, let's see, yeah, I'm gonna do the math, but anyway, yeah, if you don't do 3 miles,
Yes, yeah.
it's not gonna last more than,
Yeah.
you know,
You never catch up.
you'd never catch up, yeah.
So is this process one where you take it all the way down to the gravel or the bed, rather
So-
than just,
Reclaim it, yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, so there's, Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is gonna be, it's not a road rebuilding, but it is a grinding of the pavement itself.
It's
so-
Leveling it out, not going full to the gravel.
Yeah.
Right, so you're reclaiming the product and you're fixing the crown of the road.
Yeah,
But you're not grinding into the gravel layer and rebuilding, restructuring the actual gravel layer.
Correct, yeah.
That's a more expensive process. And one of the reasons for doing Winhall Hollow Road now is that it's actually almost, you know, it's like at a tipping point where if we don't do it, then when we do get to do it, it's gonna be at a much more expensive level because it would be a reconstruction project as opposed to just grinding it down,
And
so.
we do have some roads that are gonna be a full reconstruction.
Yeah, and that cuts your mileage about in half when you have to do a full reconstruction. So if you could afford 2 miles, you're only gonna do 1 if you're actually fixing the road bed.
Yeah.
And one thing that we talked about with Old School Street was we're actually gonna raise the surface of the road 6 inches. So that's a very short stretch, and it makes more sense to do that because it needs it. But if we did it to Winhaw Hollow Road, what's the mileage of that? That's like
There's 3 miles.
almost 3 or about 3. It was 3, yeah.
I was a half a tenth when I was just halfway across the bridge and hit 3 miles. So-
Yeah, so that's a significant project, and when you double the cost of it, it just puts it out of reach
So we didn't put the
completely.
aprons in either, and I think Everett, when he wrote this up, he put Valley Lane, Beatty, and Dairy Lane in, so we don't have that bump off.
Yeah.
Do it all.
Yeah,
Should be a nice road. hopefully.
so if that project completes and the chip seal is done next year, the estimation is that it will last 15 years. So that's promising.
Very promising. So I would say we get those RFPs out. Well, Everett's working on the RFPs.
Everett's
so
doing the
we'll get them out
RFPs.
as soon as he's got them ready. And I think
Yep.
we're a little ahead of the game
I
as to
think
where we usually get this done.
Do you think you'll do any paving this year?
that is for this
That's
summer.
That
this
is
year.
for this summer, not
Yep, so
into
the
next year.
RFPs should be available to be posted before the next meeting, probably.
And he said 2 weeks, he figured he'd
Yeah.
have everything wrote up.
Yeah. And what do we usually do paving at? Probably beginning of June. So we're getting a little jump on it, so we
Yeah, no,
And we were talking
might
about,
get more people to bid.
yeah, we were talking about maybe even trying to get going a little bit earlier because of we're trying to identify the culverts and these other projects that, as part of like this road reconstruction goal, if we can get the culverts done months in advance of the pavement, then it allows the soils to settle. And we actually talked with Everett about adding some techniques to putting the, basically watering a culvert so that we don't get, dips on newly replaced culverts. So, I mean,
the ideal world would be to replace the culverts now and then pave for next summer. But
right, and if we
don't have
get,
the ideal world yet, so
I
we're
think
looking forward.
that's what we're kind of working towards is getting ahead of that stuff. And, it's sort of like the paving bid and then there's contracted services. And if we can keep those budgets in line and predict the projects that we're doing a little bit further in advance, if we identify our paving projects in March, and, then we can start working on the culverts, even if the RFPs for paving don't go out till June or May, whatever, but.
Yep.
I think all that kind of stuff is going to improve it over time.
And how do we let our citizens know that this is going to be happening? And what are certain dates where they'll need to be?
Well, there's nowhere to say dates just yet until we award the contract, but
Right.
It'll depend on the
But-
contractor, and another reason for getting the bids out early is there's a paving season,
Right.
and the later you hire somebody, the later your work is going to get done, so,
Or may not get done.
or may not,
Right.
you might miss your window completely, so.
we can always send them a letter.
Well, I'm just thinking on our new website, maybe there's a section where
Well,
we
I'm not
have,
sure it'll be up in time for the paving,
No.
yeah.
but
Maybe
newsletter.
next-
future years, they'll definitely be.
If we have dates, even if it's proposed dates, it could
Yeah.
go to the newsletter.
I think once the RFP goes out and we pick a paving company, then like an announcement for the projects that we pick could go out. And then once we are able to hear back from the contractor, they're gonna have a loose schedule, it may not be a specific date.
Right.
There'll be two
They have to have
increments.
traffic control
Hey, by
stuff.
the way, we're coming next week. It's usually how it goes. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but, I mean, if they know the roads and they're gonna happen this summer, that's something.
Yep.
yeah, and I think the only variations will be how the bids come in based on, you know, what we can accomplish with the money that we have based on what we're asking to get done. So there might be some alterations to what we're shooting for based on what we can afford.
So we could put something to say, Winhall Hollow will have culvert and paving work done this summer. To fall, or, you know, from
Well, that's the plan. So.
June to October.
Yeah, I would wait,
October,
I would wait until the RFP goes out maybe,
You know.
but yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
mean, if
wouldn't
prices are
advertise
real
it.
bad, we may not be able to get all the work done.
Right.
So it's gonna change,
But,
you know, how the bids go in.
but be aware, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the fear would be that we would get everyone on that road excited and then something might change a little bit and, you know, the goal is to do just that,
Right.
but.
You just put in the RFP, contractor shall post road paving dates 2 weeks prior to their schedule or something. I've seen that done a lot where they'll just, doesn't have to be a flashy sign or anything, it's just a simple road sign. It just says.
Yeah, I think we've tried to do that. Like Josh mentioned, they're on such a weather-tight schedule that they might just show up. You know, it's not quite that bad, but it,
It's usually, I mean, it seems like a week in advance. You get, by the way, if things go right this week, we're gonna be doing your road set following week.
Just makes it hard for people to complain if it's posted
Yeah.
right, if it's a.
and they drive past it.
We could just have an ongoing banner or something that says, watch out, paving might be happening.
Yes. Well, and then one indication for that road too will be the culverts being replaced. So there'll be work ahead of that there'll be an opportunity for us to post some stuff, I think, so. Whether it's the town or the contractor.
I think we came up with a solid plan this year.
Yeah, I think it's smart and very helpful for us to use Everett. You know, it just, a lot of the things that not that we're guessing because we know our roads better than anyone, but it just, he can help us make a lot more sense of like the values and,
Is he a consulting engineer?
he's,
Yeah, he's an engineer.
yeah, he's definitely an engineer.
He did the RSN report of our paved roads. He did do a dirt and paved road in Wyndham when I worked up there. You know, kind of gives you your depth of your gravel and what you should be adding for the future. That's kind of how we got this paving plan is, well, you should update it because that was about 4 to 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I mean, prices have changed, money's changed, so it wouldn't hurt to have it updated, just so we know where we're going. I mean, that's why we raise the budget every year, is because his futuristic plan is, we need to raise the budget.
He's added in incremental increases,
Yeah.
but, you know, to
But he
make
may
it
not
more
have at the
accurate.
rate of inflation.
Right, yeah.
Right.
He's also working on the Reinhardt Road Culvert project. He's worked on a lot of projects for us.
He's done
He's an
several.
independent contractor.
Is that-
Is he an independent contractor that would hire?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
fine, yeah.
But he's done several of the designs for the culverts once, if we do it.
Low Lake Road was his, I think.
He did Dairy Woods.
Darren
Yeah,
Woods.
there was his.
Yep.
And Reinhardt.
So I think it's very beneficial having him on our side
Yep.
for identifying the projects, putting out the RFPs, and looking at the next project, planning, so.
Yep. Well, hopefully we'll get those RFPs out before the next meeting.
That'd be great.
All right, moving on to 9C, discuss culvert replacement on Winhall Station. Winhall Station is by the campground.
Winhall Brook Campground.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Did you find Shane's notes on this ever?
It's all mixed in with the FEMA stuff.
Oh,
The idea behind this project is the campground is closed for the summer. I'm,
Well,
yeah. Where's the majority of the summer?
So you won't have campers coming in all hours of the day, people coming and going. It's gonna be some
Oh, I
trench
see what you're saying, yeah.
construction equipment, so we've minimal traffic. There's 5 culverts down through there. There's one that's, I mean, it's gone, it's making holes in the road. And the other one's closed, and the other 3 are 15 inch and need to be upgraded to 18. I have the culverts in the yard. We were gonna try to do it last summer, and nothing went as planned. I might have.
When
what I-
has summer ever gone this
but
far?
I might have what I wrote to Shane
Okay.
somewhere. I'll look.
Yeah, yeah.
I know I questioned him about saving it.
If you got
I'm
it in
sure
the
he
email,
saved
I
it.
can
He
help you
just
find
has a
it.
different way of
Tina can.
putting things in
Yeah, I don't
folders than I
think
would.
I emailed it.
I had to think about Shane in order to find some things, which is not always easy.
I know I have it wrote down in my
Okay.
office.
If you're
So-
watching, Shane, now.
Sorry.
But timing wise, it'd be nice to get it out and have it done. And that's like one road project, and the culverts are changed. So we're back into the maybe 15-year.
Didn't he have most of the RFP written up?
Yeah, I thought so.
It exists, I think.
I'll just have to find it and update it with any information needed.
I'm gonna talk to Shane tomorrow, I can ask him.
I mean, like I said, I know I questioned him before he retired, and he said he would save it and make sure.
I'm sure
Sure he
he
did.
did.
It was somewhere.
I'm sure he
It's just
saved it,
where
it's just
it's
a question
filed.
of where his,
I
I will ask.
I know I have it on paper.
All right, I'll ask him tomorrow too.
Perfect. Well, hopefully we got that RFP almost done and we can get that out soon too.
Just close it.
And that money would come from contracted services.
Yeah. And moving on to 9D, discuss salt shed wall. We did budget for that this year.
That's another project that's been sort of waiting in the wings. The idea is on both ends of the salt shed are open. Only one is really used, so the other one just remains open. So this proposal request would be to infill framing and add siding to the part above the concrete blocks. that
The way
hold the
the
salt.
wind blows, the snow, and then it hardens your salt. And, I mean, over time, it ruins salt, it's not.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, we have probably cleaned out a bucket load of chunks, but some of them do break up. So it makes sense, we don't use, the original was a part sand, part salt, but it's more, almost, I think, easier and convenient just to leave the sand outside. And you can't,
Wasn't really big enough for both.
right, you can't
No.
really store enough in there, so I guess the first year I started, we moved the blocks and just made it one solid salt shed. And we've had a few complaints that the wind and salt's expensive and it doesn't do that, so we put it in the budget this year to get it done.
And I think, I forget the purchasing policy or the cutoffs, but it's likely more than $2,500 to do it, so.
Yeah. 2,500 was that select board approval?
Hold on 1 second.
And 5,000 was,
I think it's 5,000.
5,000 was select board approval, 2,500 was talked to one of you.
yeah,
And
Informed.
7,500 was out to bid.
yeah.
So, I think select board approval would almost do it, but it kind of depends on, I think we need to, in order to find somebody,
Yeah.
Right.
it makes sense just to put it out to bid, and even if it's not that much, then,
Yeah.
Can you help Eileen do the RFP on that one?
yeah.
Just to
What's
write up. I was asking him if he could help you get the RFP
Yeah.
done.
I actually
Just give
took
me the-
some measurements and looked at,
Okay.
I did like a scope of work, and I have what I think it
Okay.
will,
Yeah.
where it will fall.
We're throwing the builder in there. Sounds good. Well, we'll look to get all those RFPs out. Well, maybe not an RFP for the shed, but maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, it might make sense, it might be the easiest mechanism to find somebody.
Find somebody,
Yeah.
just to bid it out.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 10, old business. 10A, discuss village wastewater fee schedule. What the hell is that in here?
Thanks for having me. Eileen and Martha co-presented our most recent recent committee meeting on Friday, last Friday, May 2nd. And the project continues to move along with regards to, design. It's about 90%, and we're actually just kind of waiting on some final details for the state to be ready to sign off on it. We received some good news from Lynette, Claude, and Lou, our project point of contact with the state. That being that there was an additional $500,000 grant allocated to the project, but it's basically a state transformation fund, I believe is the term that was used.
Yeah, my understanding is you're taking the ARPA money and then moving it into the state fund.
Yes, and I think the advantage there, at least we all feel like it's going to be advantageous, is that it will hopefully mean a little bit more control of that funding at the state level. However, that didn't necessarily lead to an extension in the timelines for the project. We were kind of led to think that we might have a little bit more time by the previous point of contact. However, Lynette confirmed that that funding is going to sunset in September of 2026. So one of the things that the committee is working on with Matt Bachler from Wyndham Regional Commission is putting together basically a position letter that the town would sign on, and potentially reach out to other towns that are in the same position, basically asking the state legislature to consider extending that September 2026 deadline perhaps to the end of the year, just to give us a little bit more time. But it's still a good thing to hear that that money is not going anywhere, that it's actually been moved over. So that's good. Before I kind of get into the things that we really want to talk about, did the select board have a chance to look at the Prouty parcel map that was discussed at your last meeting? Okay. Were there any questions on that?
I think the one thing that came up was about freshwater well that, that did not exist on the map.
Yeah.
Which didn't sound promising either, but.
I think that from the discussion that was had at your last meeting, it sounds like it's going to be a multi-year process to really figure out, how that potential use is going to actually kind of come to fruition, right? So I'm sure that somewhere along the way there will be a opportunity to look at sourcing fresh water. There's got to be a way around it, even if it means putting it, a fair distance away. I think that with the importance of the wastewater project and the positioning of the project and the progress of the project, we'll have to, I think, let you find folks figure out how to get water to either a municipal building or a new fire department building.
Absolutely. I think just recognizing it as a separate concern or something that comes up that somebody stay focused on, not something to impede the current progress, but just something like, how are we going to be able to use the remaining land, and what options are left, and what can other people still think about for other future projects.
And that was the purpose of that site plan. It's not locked in stone. There's some things that may move, but to kind of continue the discussion so that folks aren't, coming to the conversation late. Chrissy, the design engineer, is potentially going to move the buildings that are associated with the wastewater treatment system to the north side of the entrance road, which would free up a little bit more space potentially for a future building, and also kind of consolidate things a little bit more. Just makes sense. So we'll see that probably in a revised or final design plan. Not a big move, but when you think about it, it just kind of makes sense.
I think going forward, for you guys and for us, getting it on a board like that, the map,
okay,
so
Yeah.
it's easier to see.
I think one of you asked last meeting for a larger map, and I meant to ask Matt if there was a way for him to print that out.
And one thing I did think I saw on that map, at least, if you take out that big hill there by this salt shed, that was in the area where we could put a building. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, Chrissy has said that.
So that would give
mound,
you more area.
It was taken out.
Yeah, that was a very preliminary, just kind of like, let's now start talking and make sure everybody's kind of in the loop, but there's probably untapped potential that once you actually
That wasn't
figure out what your building size is. And
Yeah, I think it's been determined that that mound is all fill.
Yeah, it all came from when they did the bridge, the bridge about north of the Prouty Land, I think. I think they dumped a lot of stuff there,
It might be usable gravel, some of it.
yeah.
It probably sits on top of usable gravel and nothing else. Maybe something that would expand other good uses, who knows?
all right, well, we'll continue that and we'll see if we can get a large format
Yep.
plot. The real, I think, reason for my attending here this evening is to revisit the draft ordinance that the select board was provided with back middle of March, March 17th. The comments that were offered back to the committee from Bob Fisher were relatively minor in nature. Some legalese, and then I think some kind of pending questions for the select board. First off, we had talked about whether or not the select board would be functioning as the wastewater operator. And I think everybody on this side of the table agreed that that made perfect sense. I'm not sure how you all felt about it and if you've had a chance to talk about it since.
I agree with that as far as not being forced into creating a separate committee. You know, I think it makes more sense because it's all information that we should have anyway.
I agree with that as well.
Yeah, and ultimately, we're dealing with, I think, what should hopefully be a relatively small annual operating effort. There will be some management of reserves and things like that. So it, I think, is certainly germane to what your responsibilities as select board already are. I think handing that off to a committee might be not asking for trouble, but might lead to.
They would still need some of our input anyway,
Right.
so it's like just skip it altogether.
I think our hope is that by your next meeting on the 19th, that the select board would be prepared to adopt the draft ordinance. Eileen has circulated the most recent copy, which incorporates Bob Fisher's feedback. There is an appendix, I believe, that needs to be attached.
That was the piece that was missing, so.
To that. So hopefully we'll have that in short order. That's being provided by Chrissy. And I believe it's just basically a design layout plan showing all the elements of the system.
That's what it says. It's blank right now, so, yeah.
I got one question. I don't know if this has been talked about with you guys yet, but for like the STR ordinance, we don't put what the fee's gonna be in the ordinance. Because then if you change it, you have to go through that process every year and it takes 60 days to readopt.
Okay.
So I don't know how they usually do these kind of ordinances, but that is something we have done with the STR. So that way you can change the fees every year without having to readopt the ordinance.
It looks like a fee schedule in there right now,
Yeah, I don't think the fee schedule is in there.
The only thing that's in here
Okay.
is the source of the money. I think that's the
Right.
question that we have to answer is these different scenarios
Yeah.
is who's gonna pay, not necessarily the
Amount.
actual dollar amount, but,
Well, I'm just looking at this and it actually has the actual dollar amount on it, so I just wasn't sure.
right, no, I would agree.
I was just
think-
throwing that out there as something to make it easy, life easier going down the road.
It's
So I
a
don't
fair
know.
point, and I think it's one that certainly makes sense. You
Yeah.
want to have some independence outside of the ordinance.
Yeah, because otherwise you gotta go through that 60-day process and people can appeal it.
And I think one of the comments that Bob had was regarding the statute language associated with reserve fund spending. And I think that's been clarified.
I think so.
Yeah. So we have the draft ordinance, which we're hoping will be adopted. And then separate item, we have the draft fee schedule. And that was prepared by Rural Community Assistance Program, RCAP, and has been reviewed by the committee. We presented that to the select board as well back in March. And it shows basically a scale of costs with I guess the nexus of it being whether or not there would be a contribution of the grant list to, not subsidize is not the right way, to help support.
Offset.
Offset, yes, thank you. To offset the wastewater system. And we provided 0, 50, and 100%. And the values that you see there, if you have in front of you, are based on, I believe it's a $250,000 house.
Yep.
So you can probably do the math there. There aren't too many $250,000 homes in Londonderry these days. But the costs are fairly reasonable, and they're not too far out of line with what we had actually started talking about several years ago when it was really just kind of back of the envelope calculations. But they do represent, I think, a significant milestone for the community. And during our meeting on Friday, there was some discussion as to whether or not the committee would be making a recommendation as to which of these percentages to adopt. And at that time, I think Martha had asked the question. And my initial response and having thought about it a bit over the last couple of days, I think I still feel more comfortable with saying that I believe is a select board decision. And the select board feels like they need to, have a special meeting on that. That's up to you guys. But when it comes to, decisions of this, I think importance in this nature, I think it really does speak to your role and responsibilities within the town.
And that's why I had sort of followed up and asked Matt to query other cities and towns that had done this to sort of understand how they had grappled with that issue. So his response was either it's in this document or it's in an email, but yeah.
It's in here somewhere.
Yeah,
It's the first thing. I think.
It is encouraging.
It's the next page.
It is encouraging to hear that, as far as communities across Vermont go that are trying to, basically advance significant projects in a very short timeline, that we are basically keeping pace with other communities. We're well ahead of some others, so that's, I think, very encouraging.
So I'd just like to point out one thing. Early on in this wastewater discussion, the committee actually said in public meetings that they would not be asking the public to pay anything. It would be on the users. That was said in open meetings. So I'm just saying that. And also, even on Saturday during our long-term recovery meeting, I was approached by people saying we can't afford to have more taxes put on us when we're not using this. I have not had anyone come up to me and say, yeah, I'll be fine sharing the cost.
I
That's
have
just
heard people
information.
say that they're okay with the idea that we're all in this together. So I have heard
Okay.
people saying that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's good that some
Yeah,
people have
yeah,
said that.
yeah.
I would add on a personal note that I should likely recuse myself from voting because I'm a potential connectee, so in the North Village. So
Makes
I don't
sense.
necessarily want to vote on how the fees are structured.
Makes sense.
I have an opinion, but I'll keep it to myself.
I think that having been on the committee for a couple of years now, I would echo Martha's statement that there are folks that don't have any incentive or that aren't going to gain anything by the system except hopefully seeing the vitality of the villages improved. And I certainly respect that there's probably a lot of folks in town who are managing things on a shoestring. There, I believe, was a question raised about whether or not was it a local option tax could be, you know, potentially utilized. I think it would be probably something that you might want to discuss as you're kind of running through this decision. But ultimately, you know, we're, as a committee, looking to the select board.
Are you looking for approval tonight or just discussion?
We're hoping that by your next meeting,
By the next meeting,
you can see the ordinance adopted, as well as, I think, consensus on the fee. Where we're at right now, in order to kind of finalize, not so much the design, but actually start moving things ahead with the state, we need to begin some significant communication and correspondence with the folks that have expressed an interest in connecting to the system. This far, we've basically been able to kind of offer them a rough idea of costs and things like that. But until we actually are able to put something on the paper, share that with them, and then as well have them fill out the connection application, we're not where we need to be with the state. We're not falling behind, but we're getting to a point pretty quickly where that will be delaying us. So, and I don't think I mentioned the connection application yet. We provided that to you guys as well back in March. I think that's pretty straightforward. The design engineer would be filling out the majority of the information on that connection application for each of the property owners, just because it's kind of their language, versus I could ask most of you guys probably don't know how many gallons per day goes into a residential system. But in any event, that is part of the outreach, the communication that we, I think, really need to start doing as a committee.
Any thoughts on the fee schedule?
Well, I've heard a little, like I said, while I've heard a little bit from both, I've definitely heard more people on the not wanting to pay if they're not part of the system, so I'm kind of more on the, I've heard from, like I've understood what you and Mark were saying, I've heard from both, but I have heard from more saying they don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, something for us to all consider for the next meeting.
If it were to become part of an ordinance, it's something that could change with a 60-day notification. It could be amended if we make a choice and it doesn't work out the way that we want to, we can change it. It's not a quick change, but
No, it could be modified.
like other things we've spearheaded, we know that revisiting after a short period of time, a year maybe, there's perspectives change, so
Yeah.
it's worth at least taking another look at it in the future.
Well, to Tom's earlier point, I'm not sure that the fee schedule is tied to the ordinance in any way,
No.
and I'm not sure that it would be subject to review or appeal or amendment or anything of that sort. It's basically, once you form the utility or the system, then the select board's in charge of making, you know, day-to-day, year-to-year decision on that.
Yep.
That might be the key point is, are we separating just the dollar amount or are we separating the source? Like, do we have to decide who pays would that be in the ordinance? Or not the dollar amount, but
How the costs are deployed.
are those things separated or are they both taken out and managed separately from the ordinance?
Yeah, that'd be
I think
good.
they're
to know.
managed separately from the ordinance. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cleaner.
Yeah,
that'd be better.
but that's a
if you did it that way.
good thing to look into.
Definitely something that,
And I just point out that, you know, we provided you with 3 kind of set points, 0, 50, and 100. There's a lot of numbers between those. There's also the potential for doing a sliding scale, something that adjusts over time.
or according to usage, like a business that has, a 50-seat
I think that's already
restaurant.
happening.
Yeah,
That's different than
Yeah, the business is
one-bedroom
pretty-
home or
the
something.
charge is basically the same rate. If if you were like $1 per gallon as a residential. What happens there is a business, depending on what sort of business, could potentially have a lower design flow. Say like a library or post office has a lower design flow than a residential building because there's not a lot of people coming in and out. However, a restaurant is going to have a significantly higher design flow. So there's going to be a sliding scale there for those users that would basically just be based on $1 per gallon.
And it's metered like water.
Yes.
It's not metered like water, great question. It's based on design flows that are provided by the state. For instance, if you have a restaurant, it's based on the number of seats and the number of meals per day. If you have a business, it's based on the number of employees and the type of business. If it's retail or something like that.
Yeah, on the chart that you had put in the packet, it showed the 3 scenarios. What assumptions were made based on the utilization of the system?
So the assumptions were based on basically full capacity.
Full capacity?
Yeah.
Is that your expectation that it will start off day one at full capacity?
So day one, our best guess is that all the interest displayed in hooking up to the system thus far is going to be met. In fact, both of the systems, there was more interest than the capacity could handle. So in the South Village, we actually were able to increase the capacity of the infiltration bed to basically add more connections. The North Village is going to be limited by that system. However, once we put dollars to paper and forecast this cost, those folks that express an interest, they may now be thinking about selling their property. Things in life come up. So that next part of the process, getting that letter of intent, if you will, is an important one for the committee and also for the actual permitting process with the state.
Sounds good.
Just as long as we're on it, I think you can make a very solid argument why the town in general should foot some of the cost, certainly of the bond, not the year-to-year maintenance of the system. For the same reason I pay school taxes, I don't have kids in school. And I pay other taxes for things that I have no hand in, but it makes the living in Londonderry that much better for everybody. Just, that's my opinion, and
Be sure to come next time we meet. Tell us that again.
well, come to the meeting after you guys decide and say, how do you need to tell us?
Yeah. I just had a thought, are the fees just strictly based on usage, or does that take in administration costs as well?
So I think what you're asking is whether or not, so there's the whole kind of working spreadsheet that kind of separates it out line item by line item and has kind of a sliding scale of O&M costs per year, I think through 3032. So it forecasts a pretty modest reserve because there shouldn't be a lot of unexpected costs associated with these systems. They're pretty reliable.
Yeah, but like delinquencies, that can add up if people don't pay,
Sure, and that's something that,
Yeah.
is boiled into the ordinance and how the town would, for the select board, would actually respond to those things.
Just thinking of what it's gonna add to my job.
What, delinquent wastewater?
Yeah.
That stinks.
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. All right, thank you, and we will see you at the next meeting.
Yeah,
And I have to commend the committee for keeping to the time schedule as best as possible and making sure that everybody's doing what they've got to do. So it is a very tight window, and I have to applaud all the committee members for their work keeping us on task.
We're trying
Thank
to
you.
do the best we can anyway. So do you all think that by the 19th, you will have perhaps had a chance to review things again and discuss?
I think so. I mean, the ordinance seems pretty straightforward. Bob's looked it over, it comes from other towns, so don't think there's too
I think
much to
the
really
lion's
weigh in
share
on
of
that.
it, yeah, the lion's share of it seems pretty okay.
Yeah,
It's really just, I think, the question of the fee schedule
Yeah.
and whatnot that's going to require some deliberation, discussion.
yeah, that'll probably be the bigger debate.
Yeah.
There might be a few more chairs filled,
That there will be, I'm sure.
hopefully.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Is that all you have, Gary? Take it. Moving on to item 11, new business. 11A, Londonderry domain name change from .org to .gov.
You guys think you can handle the rest of this without me?
I think we got it.
Good night.
We'll
Thank
find
you.
out.
You trained us well.
So in our, well, you can.
The website committee, in the process of just discussing things, was discussing whether we wanted to change from .org to .gov, because it's best practice for a government agency to have .gov. And I know of 2 towns that have done this recently. So I think we were on board with, the committee was on board with doing it, but we thought we should bring it to the select board. It's basically a migration from, one to the other, and it should be fairly seamless when it happens. Thinking that we would do it with the website change.
And Pete did say that we would still keep the domain name,
Yeah.
the .org.
That is
So if
critical.
anybody searches for it, it would automatically drive them to our new website.
And also, old emails that have the .org would forward to the
All flip to
.gov.
it.
And I just say
Pretty
that,
seamless.
Putney did not do that, and it didn't go well. So it's definitely a crucial part of the process.
Yeah,
And-
but it'll be a while before, we've got to get the domain name.
Right.
Would this be on the new website going forward, or just
I think it would,
just be a change
it would just,
at some point?
it would make more sense to do it when we go live with the website, but we could do it anytime we want.
Yeah. I was just wondering.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with it. We get some benefits from it, don't we? Here and there a little bit. Or is it
I'm not
much?
sure we get any benefits from it, but we get to
Yeah.
be at .gov instead of .org.
My worry, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that my worry is that ransomware attacks are everywhere. And I wonder if there's some correlation between .gov and a frequency of ransomware attacks versus .org.
I don't
Okay.
think
Don't
so.
think so?
We
Okay.
I get strange requests all the time.
Yeah, so do
Yeah.
I just don't.
Right, but
It's gotta
but
learn
if
how to
somebody's
I-
trolling
That's
and
more of
looking
a-
for vulnerable,
That's more of a
I.
user issue than a domain
Yeah.
issue.
And Pete,
okay.
Pete has some pretty good firewalls.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I think the easiest step is reserving the domain name, and probably the most critical, because
Yes.
it just,
As soon as you say it's okay, Pete will
Go for it.
probably
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
and register.
It turns out that the
I think-
.gov ones are actually pretty locked down, so you have to be
You have to be a
you have to prove that you're a
government
government.
right, okay, so somebody
for it.
couldn't snatch it up
Somebody
and be
can't
like, I'll
steal
give it to
them.
you for
Yeah.
20 grand.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're
That would
good
be-
there, but sooner rather
You
than
have to
later.
have an ID me or.
Tina's gonna do it.
I don't see any reason not to do it.
Yep, I would agree.
Anyone care to make that much?
Sure. I move to, 1, approve the migration of Londonderry's domain name from londonderryvt.org to londonderryvt.gov. And 2, direct the town administrator to coordinate with staff, IT services, and revise to accomplish the migration.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. 11B, discuss change of venue for select board meetings.
So I put this on here because I'm eager to move out of here. It seems awfully close. It seems like we probably could move to the next meeting, we could probably be there. They're planning on being in there regardless, so.
You have to be.
So if, and you're gonna need, in order to move, you need internet and phone
Yes.
service and
That's all
electricity
gonna
and
happen.
water, so,
Yeah.
I mean, of all the things that we need, I think they would, if they're there, then we could be there. On the other hand, things have been moving, so we wanted to
My
discuss.
thought is just to be safe, we just do the next meeting here, even if we gotta set up a couple tables before, because the Playhouse will be here.
Playhouse, okay.
And that'll also give us time to, because we're gonna have to go into that one storage unit and get the table out and stuff.
Okay.
So there's definitely stuff in that storage unit that we used for meetings.
Yeah, some of it can stay in there, but most of the stuff is in the front, I think. that
Yeah.
we need. The chairs, we need to take some chairs back from here.
I think logistically wise, I think you just,
Just
especially
a little
with
bit
especially with the construction crew kind of
Yeah.
wavering on when everything's gonna be ready. I think it's just safer to
Yeah.
say next meeting will be here.
The parking lot's pretty scary too, so.
Yeah.
And Nestor will be gone by then, so I'm scared.
That's right.
What?
Nestor's last day
Our
was
The 13th.
foreman on the job is leaving the job
Today or-
on the 12th.
12th, yeah.
He was hoping to have us in there and settled before he left, but.
Yeah. I think it's just safer to
Okay.
not try to
Okay.
schedule a meeting there yet.
All righty.
I've been on
See
a
how that
construction
goes.
site or two, and it's never ahead of schedule or less money, so.
I think, yeah, just keep
All right,
that
we'll
on the
just move that,
agenda.
we'll move that to the next
Yeah.
agenda.
We'll be in the downstairs when we go back, is that true?
No.
No, the upstairs
No,
still.
we'll be
meeting room.
upstairs.
Oh, okay.
I'll be upstairs, she's
The
upstairs.
downstairs
I'm
meeting
upstairs.
rooms for like the FEMA meetings and stuff we did,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
for more of the personal meetings. All right, moving on to 11C, first and third class liquor license and outdoor consumption permit, Ski Magic LLC. Anyone choose to make that motion?
I move to approve a first and third class liquor license for Ski Magic LLC related to property located at 495 Magic Mountain Access Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 11D, second class liquor license, AGS Vermont Incorporated, Londonderry Village Market.
I move to approve a second class liquor license for AGS Vermont Incorporated related to property located at 5700 Vermont Route 100.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. 11E, outside consumption permit, Turner Enterprises LLC, New American Grill.
I move to approve an outdoor consumption permit for Turner Enterprises related to property located at 5700 Vermont Route 100.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. 11F, outside consumption permit, Upper Tamarack Incorporated, Upper Pass Lodge.
I move to approve an outdoor consumption permit for Upper Tamarack Lodge related to property located at 420 Magic Mountain Access Road.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. 11G, inter-vendor permit application, Grateful Harvest. This is at the Green Mountain Therapeutics, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
similar to the smoke and rolls one.
Should that be part of the motion? Or the location?
I don't think we did that the last time, did we?
Do what?
We
You
can
add
say-
it to
we
it
can
there
add
if you
it.
like, yeah,
Business address.
Add what?
the location.
Oh, yeah.
I move to approve itinerant vendor permit number 2025-03 for Grateful Harvest LLC at the location of Green Mountain Therapeutics in North Village.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And 11H, Town Hall Facilities, 5425 request for the farmer's market, just retroactive.
This is for their potluck
This
dinner or
is their
something?
potluck, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I move to authorize the use of town hall for a private event on May 5th,
May
2020.
4th, sorry.
It's May 4th. Wait a minute, that's today.
It was
It was
yesterday.
yesterday.
Right, so it should be May 4th.
Okay. Private event on May 4th, 2025, and to authorize the town administrator to sign the facility use agreement on behalf of the town.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. And who won't stop?
Go, Jim.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Gonna hand that. Can I ask if, it's probably a question that's gonna have a huge